Could you just hang that up, please? If you would be kind enough. I'll do it because he can't hear me. What am I doing? Okay, go back to that. Okay. Please forgive us for being a little technically challenged again with the system. I think this is going through. We are a little bit late to start, but hey, we will continue. It's very interesting because the verse that we're doing this morning from Bhagavad Gita is talking about you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, which is to give a class, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action, the results. Sounds familiar. It's Krishna's trick, huh? Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. So I was thinking, let's abandon this one. But hey, somehow or other, we're using all the technologies. I'm not, but our technical support is using it. And here we are. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's very interesting. I'm calling for technical support in the form of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's the only place you can actually take shelter, and the only person that can actually give you shelter, ultimately, in the ultimate issue, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we go to these scriptures, we chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya to make a connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is omnipotent, and he is able to be fully present in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe. At the same time, all the universes emanate from him. So this is the personality to whom we surrender and we can get some shelter. So we're going to speak from Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter. It's text number 47. And then there's another personality we require as aspiring devotees, and that is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because Krishna says, if you want to know me, you want to connect with me, here's how you do it. Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively and render service unto him. He can impart knowledge unto you because he has this connection. He is able to connect you to me, Krishna is saying. So again, we need that connection. So without these connections, we can look at books, we can read the letters on the pages and not get very far without that mercy, without that connection. So, chapter 2, text 47. Karmanye vati karaste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sangoštva karmani. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There are three considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Prescribed duties refer to activities performed while one is in the modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, And inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. The Lord advised that Arjuna not be inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. I'll read that again. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus, he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the result of such actions. Srila Prabhupada goes on. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fitted into three subdivisions, namely routine work, emergency work, and desired activities. Routine work, in terms of the scriptural injunctions, is done without desire for results. As one has to do it, obligatory work is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Therefore, fighting as a matter of duty was the only auspicious path of salvation for Arjuna. Om Ganatu Marandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master is forcing me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Karman yevadhi karaste ma phaleshu kadhachana ma karma phala heturbur ma te sangosht vakarmani. Translation: you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So one of the greatest questions that comes up in all aspects of our inquiring about spiritual life, in fact, even in material life, this question is coming up all the time. Three small words: what to do. And next comes straight after that is how to do. What to do and how to do it. How to be in action. And it's also said elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita that he who sees action and inaction, and inaction and action, is the real seer of the truth. So one may be very active in this world, but the devotee is seeing that actually there's nothing really going on. It's just the interaction of the modes of material nature. And the non-devotee is looking at the activities of the devotee and thinking there is no activity going on here. They're just so focused on chanting only this Hare Krishna mantra, etc. So what is daytime for the introspective sage is nighttime for the materialist, and vice versa. So what to do and how to do it. And Arjuna is providing us with the example, Krishna and Arjuna, of being bewildered by this question of activities to be performed or not to be performed. And I don't know if you've experienced that, but I know I have, of having to try to understand what one should do in different circumstances. Srila Prabhupada is mentioning three considerations, and we can see how they're all very much predominated by the three modes of material nature. Prescribed duties, mode of goodness. Capricious work is mode of passion, and inaction is ignorance. So these types of actions are in Vedic culture very much chopped out. Krishna says elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnya Maya Shrishtam Gunai Karma Vibhagasa. The system of the Varnas and the ashram is a system that is prescribed or is created by me. And it gives a very clear idea of what one should do, how one should act according to his psychophysical nature, the Varnas and the ashrams. So this is very helpful for human civilization. And we could talk a lot about that, and we will go on to talk a bit about it. But it also has its pitfall. Anything in the material nature has two sides, the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. I think you've noticed that as you've gone through life. Something appears good, but it's a package deal we get. So the package deal of functioning according to the Varna Ashram system is that we may become elevated to the higher level of the mode of goodness, but then we may become stuck there and not go beyond the prescribed duty of our upadi or our temporary designation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am not a Brahmin, not a Kshatriya, not a Vaishya, not a Shudra, neither am I a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. I'm Gopi Parthu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Anudas. That is my actual identity. So he takes us beyond the Varnashram to transcendence. And also in Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, text 45, just a couple of texts back, it says that, O Arjuna, become freed from all desires for gain and safety and become established in the self. Do not become bound by the flowery words of the Vedic literatures, which are more or less aimed at a peaceful life in the material world. But elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Purna Avartino Arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, he is what, Arjuna? They're all places of misery. Why? Why? The highest planets, you can live for millions of years, celestial delights. Why? Because it is temporary. It is a temporary manifestation. And you are categorically different from this temporary manifestation of matter, the earth, the water, fire, air, and ether, the subtle mind, intelligence, false ego, false identifications. Rise above these three modes of material nature, even though they may appear to be very attractive, and be established in the self. So this is the actual message of the Vedas. The Vedas, we understand describe the three modes of material nature: elevation to higher planets, performance of pious activities, ritualistic ceremonies prescribed in the Vedas, where one can go to higher planets and so on. But they're all within the three modes of material nature. Sorry, I have to just move something. Thank you. So it's a good thing that there's Varna and Ashram. Why? Because it brings stability to the human civilization. And that is so important. So as aspiring devotees, we have this dichotomy practically. We hear Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Charitamrita saying, go to Ramananda Roy, that please, if you know something more than Varnashram, go further, tell me something more. He's not saying Varnashram is wrong. Why would he say such a thing? Krishna has said, this is the system that I have for peaceful human civilization, for gradual elevation, so that society can function as a human society. Human society is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that Kamashana indriya priti labo jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignashana arto yaschiha karma bhi. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since the human form of life is meant for inquiring into the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So Bhagavatam is so powerful, it immediately, just one verse explains everything we need. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification, either gross or subtle, pious or impious, good or bad. Why? Because ultimately everything in the material world is bad. Just like if you go to jail, it's not a good place to be. Oh, but I can give you gold handcuffs. I can give you your own cell. I can give you newspapers. I can give you your telephone. We'll have to listen to what you're saying just to make sure you're not planning an escape. So we can make so much facility can be there. But after all, it's jail. First class prisoner or 10th class prisoner, gold handcuffs or iron handcuffs, you're still in jail. So this is to be understood. But we become enamored. I was reading a little thing, Srila Prabhupada was explaining that opulence, material opulence, and good education, high birth, and all these things, they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Why? Because Bhogaishvarya Prashakaram Taya Paritachetasam. Those who are, I think that was just earlier in this chapter, that bewildered by this false identification with material, those who are bewildered by sense gratification and material opulence, and are bewildered by such, the resolute determination for devotional service does not take place. So it's going to take some, what would we say? I think I used that example last week or so, that, when a rocket leaves the Earth's atmosphere, there's a great resistance that has to push very powerfully through that resistance. So devotional life is very much like that. It's called at first there's some momentum. Yeah, you get association with a special personality, the Lord's pure devotees, those who are described to be very focused on this path. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. So they're on this path. So we get that association. It could be a Vartman Pradarshana guru, a person who's introduced us, sincerely trying to become Krishna conscious. That person is introducing us to Krishna consciousness. Or we may be fortunate to get the association of the Lord's pure unalloyed devotee, Paramahansa devotee like Srila. But we get that energy is ultimately coming from Krishna through the different via mediums that Krishna is making it available to us. And we get some momentum. So we get the sadhu sangha. Ado shraddha is first. We have a little faith. Somehow we get into a place where we get a little bit of association, sadhu sangha. And then we hear from the sadhus. We're enthusiastic. Take up the bhajan. Take up the process of devotional service. So we begin like that. Ado shraddha, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. And then we come to this place called the Anartanavriti, the great desert where we have to cross over. And the only way to shrink the desert down is Trinada peace in Ichina Tarori Vasaishnana Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sadahari. So you have to take up the bhajan, the kirtana. Kirtan has to be there. The Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all the processes are there. So we take it up. But that big desert that we have to cross is similar, can also be compared to an ocean, the ocean of material existence. So it can be shrunk down if we are able to pick up the mood of the previous teachers, the acharyas, in this process. It can be shrunk down to a very simple, small amount of water in the hoof print of a calf, we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam. So then we can get again the momentum to push forward, back home, back to Godhead. Our life as devotees, I've mentioned this many times, is not anatta navriti. That is a process that it seems could be some time, but we should not think, just like in the mirage, another example that Srila Prabhupada used, the mirage, we may think, oh, there's no water, because we're seeing that there's no water as I go forward in this desert, and there's no water, there's no nectar there. I keep going forward into the desert, and then as I go further in, the water is still the same distance away, and I go on and on like that. But we can understand the acharyas are telling us, Jata Shrata Matkatashu Nirvina Sarvakarmishu. Nirvina Sarvakarmishu means that we may be disgusted with this material world, and we've got a little attraction for hearing Krishna Katha. So there's some idea that I don't want to be in this material world, but we may not have the potency, the power. Parityage Yanishvaraha. Parityage means to surrender, and Yanishvaraha means that we don't have the full power. We are not Ishvara. We are not Paramishvara. We are little, small, tiny Ishvara. So we don't have the power to fully give up all the anattas. So in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is speaking to Uddhava, and he says that my devotees should continue and engage, continue engaging in my devotional service with great determination, and that he will make progress by doing that and become, ultimately, he'll be successful. So we are learning this process then from the very beginning, how to perform our duty to and we can think, yes, I want to be just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the need of this Varnashram system? To designations, they're all temporary. I'm just a Jivara Svarup. I'm a Nityasiddha. I am eternally Krishna's servant. But it's said that we should make steps from where we actually are. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave the example of the ladder, that when you have a ladder and you wish to go to the top of the ladder, one has to take steps. Generally, one is not advised to just try and jump from the ground up to the top of the ladder. That's why the steps are there. So it's a process, a gradual process. Naturally, there's exceptions, but we should not always think that we're the exception to the rule, but we should look towards the rule and see what benefit we can get. So that system is there then, how to perform your prescribed duty. So Krishna is saying to Arjuna, perform your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya, stand and fight. It is unglorious or inglorious for you to desist from fighting. That will be tamaguna, to cease the activity. And if you act capriciously, you will get in trouble, because to perform another's duty, even though perfectly, is not recommended in the Vedic literature. One should perform one specific duty. Now, flipping it a little bit, flipping from that idea, Srila Prabhupada gave us the hint also. He said one good thing, as I mentioned earlier, there's good and bad in everything. So one good thing that the Western civilization brings is detachment. Vedic culture develops great attachment, but it's wonderful kinds of attachment. It's rich, it's virtuous, it's noble, the attachment people had in these royal families, to the attachment to performing duty, and the attachment to doing good for others. This is exactly what we require before we consider going to transcendence, to go beyond the dharmic duties of the material existence for the gradual progression of human civilization. So Srila Prabhupada was all perfect. He always used his statement. He says, make the best use of a bad bargain. So guess what? Bad bargain is we're born in the Western world. We have so many disqualifications. We have very little attachment. And this is where it serves us. We have very little attachment for family and society, etc. Really not deep. When we talk, if you go to the Indian side and we see someone is deciding to take sannyas, it's like, oh, when Lord Chaitanya was going to take sannyas, the devotees were, their hearts were breaking. Why would you want to do that? You're such a loving mother and loving father and loving friends and etc. So anyway, without going into that too deeply, we can go back to the position that we find ourselves in. It's not so difficult to develop some initial energy to go towards renunciation, especially when we get a hint of what's on offer. That's the wonderful thing. What's on offer is cessation of all our karmic reactions. Krishna says, Sarvadhamam parityagya mamekam saranam raja aham tvam savi papebhyo moksha yashyami nasuja. Don't fear. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. And that is our difficulty in the material world. In this life after life, we're suffering the reactions to our past misdeeds. And Krishna says, I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. And he has that power. He is Param Ishvara. He is the supreme controller. He is the supreme personality, and he can deliver his promise. He says, declare it boldly, Arjuna, my devotee never perishes. Whatever difficulty he may find himself in, I can deliver him. So that's what's on offer. Now, material life, Maya is so expert that people don't get that very simple but exalted point. The door is closed. It's like a closed door. They can't understand the curtain of Maya. They think, my difficulty is this. I don't have enough money. My difficulty is that I don't have a good enough paying job. The difficulty is I can't go on with my wife, so I need a new one. The difficulty, and we look to these situations, our life situation, to see, and let me think, this is my difficulty, let me adjust, and then I won't have the difficulty. It's very childish, actually. It's very immature, infantile, and not very advanced level of consciousness or awareness. The actual fact that Bhagavatam clearly explains is that our real problem is the accumulated karmic reactions to our past sinful deeds. In Bhagavatam it says like that, Nunam pramata kurate vikarma. Nunam pramata kurate vikarma yadindriya aprinoti asadat manyeta asamasi kleshada asadeha. Nunam pramata. When a person becomes pramata or mad after sense gratification, he pursues materialistic life madly if we become too attached to this idea of sense gratification. And he becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in one sinful activity after another. And this way he increases his implication of the whole karmic action and reaction. So not knowing this simple point that my difficulties, my frustrations, my unhappiness can be completely mitigated by the linking process of devotional service, we do everything else other than devotional service. So this is what's on offer, and we have the best use of the bad bargain. We're born with low qualities in Western life, and should we say Kali Yuga life. Western now is nearly Western and Eastern. The East has become very Westernized. It just means demonic. It means materialistic, whether it's East, West, North or South. And in the age of Kali, it's there. So we are interested to hear how to proceed from where we are on our life, in this lifetime, how to proceed, whether I'm a brahmachari, how should I proceed as a brahmachari? Or if we agree hasta, then how do I proceed as a grihasta in a progressive way? Again, quoting Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was such a wonderful example to us that Srila Prabhupada pointed us to again and again. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his writings says that unless one is a Paramahamsa, and we ask the question, put your hand up if you're a Paramahamsa, maybe not many hands will go up. He says unless you're at the stage of Paramahamsa, then you require 4 aspects of your life to be in order. The first one is good health. Health, the body has to be kept healthy. So we could talk all morning about that, and those who are into health will think, yes, finally someone's got it. But Bhaktivinoda says it's not just one thing, there's 4. So one is to keep the body healthy. And that, again, is a big discussion how to do that. There's Ayurveda, there's all kinds of things how we should live, what food we should grow, how it should be grown, what it should be free from, how it will give you nutrition, that will keep you health, things to eat, things not to eat, when to eat, and when not to eat certain things, different seasons. It's a whole science. Everything's a science. So to keep our health is required. Then the second thing that he speaks is that one should be socially well situated. One has to be situated properly according to his psychophysical makeup in a social structure. So if you're actually a brahmachari, then learn what it is to be a brahmachari and function in that way and be comfortable. See if you can be comfortable there. If you agree hasta, then be properly married and be properly situated. That means we have to, as grihastas, act as what? Paramahamsas? Maybe not. Human beings? Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. First become a first-class human being. What does that mean? Shastra says that you should act very peacefully. You should act honestly. We should act gently. We should act with compassion. We should act with kindness. So many human and Srila Prabhupada said the 4 regulative principles basically was not a very high level. It's just, he said that is actually human. The human beings are doing these things. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. So it may take us some time to come to this human platform. Anyway, again, we could talk all about that, but let's just keep moving through here. So first, we've got our health to look after, make sure we get that sorted. And it's not just taking a few pills, going to the doctor and keeping healthy. It's a great science from how we grow our food, etc., how we live in this world, where we live in this world, where we're supposed to live as human beings. We're not supposed to live in concrete jungles. The only devotees supposed to live in the concrete jungles are those who are fired up, enthused, and ready to preach Krishna consciousness, and that is their life. They should be there. That was explained by the great acharyas. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he said he didn't want to go to the forest, but he wanted to be where the people were out of compassion, and that is the whole system from Prahlad Maharaj through our acharyas. And then Srila Prabhupada told us that I have established these temples, but these temples will not always be here. When society collapses to demoniac society, no, we're not talking about devotee society, we're talking about demoniac society. It will collapse. It must collapse. Why? Because it's artificial and it's not based on Krishna consciousness. So economically, socially, through different pestilence and disease, it will collapse. It must do. Why? Because it is all hanging on a thread of artificiality. And Prabhupada spoke about that in many lectures and morning walks and so many letters and so on in his teachings. So again, moving through. So we've got health to be looked after in so many aspects. We've got socially being situated as human beings. Prabhupada wanted us to be gentlemen and ladies. He wanted us to be examples for the people, the average person, to say, wow, I could be like them. They're very nice. The Hare Krishna people, they look after their children very well. Look after their husbands and wives. The wife and husband, they seem to get on very well. I wouldn't mind being like them. So that is the idea, socially well situated. And then the third one that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is proper impetus and inspiration for the mind. The mind is to be controlled, and how it's controlled is by the dovetailing process of finding service in Krishna's service that is satisfying to the mind, so that the mind will feel somewhat peaceful. That is being engaged in service according to our psychophysical nature. We may be called upon to do some emergency work, and that every devotee should come to the pump, so to speak. In the old days, we used to fire pump, and the water would come out. So everyone's called to the pump for some emergency, but we shouldn't go always in emergency mode, but we should be engaged according to our nature. I was reading Jadharani Mataji's book the other night, and she was presenting this little segment where Prabhupada was speaking to her, and he was saying, yes, I saw that you had a little inclination for painting, and therefore I engaged you in that activity according to your nature. And he went on to explain that is the business of the Paramahamsas. They come and they engage the neophytes according to their capacity. What proclivities that Krishna has given, try to engage it and dovetail it in Krishna's service. So the mind, that will take some time also to get the mind properly situated, and it has to be adjusted. That's the way of the material world. What was suitable for you 30 years ago, or 10 years, or 6, whatever time it is. You see that with children. You no sooner is a child established on the 3 months platform as a baby, then it becomes 6 months, and they're quite different. And 1 year, and the mothers, especially the fathers, will also attest to that. Just as you're getting used to looking after the child's needs at that age, they change because the body's always changing, material nature is always shifting. So what was inspiring for our mind 2 years, 5 years, 10, whatever number of years might, we have to tune in. And again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that is the devotees always reflecting, how is things going? I made these decisions, I made these adjustments, and I moved forward that time. How are things now? What has to be tweaked? Just like when you're trying to swim across the ocean, it's like that too, especially if you have a sailboat. You trim the sails, moving this way, the wind is changing, so you have to adjust it to go that way. And then you get stuck on only 3, the health. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Oh, just be a good human being. Yeah, that sounds nice. Stimulus for my mind. Oh yeah, yeah. The 4th one, and we may say equally or most important, they're all very important, is the study, our sadhana, the study of Shastra, and the execution of devotional activities so that we make progress. Otherwise, it's shrama eva hi kevalam. All the activities that they do not, all the looking after your body, giving stimulus for the mind, being socially well situated. If it does not develop attraction for service to the Lord, then it's all described by Srimad Bhagavatam as shrama eva hi kevalam. So then again, we jump for, yes, it's all shrama. No, it's useless waste of time if it does not provoke attraction for the message of Vasudeva. So advice for all of us is keep healthy in all the aspects of it, learn what that means. Be socially well situated and keep an eye open for things that need tweaking and adjusting. Have proper inspiration for the mind to be engaged in Krishna's service, and all of that should be focused in service to Krishna. So swinging back to the verse that we're speaking on today, what to do, how to act. Arjuna gets confused a little bit. He thinks, oh, you say that I should be active in this war, but then you say that higher than this action is transcendental knowledge, so then maybe I should give everything up. So he gets confused, which is completely understandable. And the message that we'll get in this section of the Bhagavad Gita, and generally as we go through, it will come again and again. There's karma yoga, and dhyana yoga, the cultivation of knowledge and karmic activities, dovetailing them in good jnana yoga, the kind of knowledge. It all comes in as the stanga yoga processes of, and so on. It comes to bhakti yoga, and Prabhupada clearly says that without the overcoating of bhakti, none of them will bring you to the highest level of pure unalloyed love for God. So you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. And elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada mentions that is the kripana, or the miserly person. We want to do something for ourselves, and I want to enjoy the fruit. Just like a miser may have a sum of money and he hoards it for himself. So it's not a very attractive feature. So we should become Mahatmas, or broad-minded souls, and that is our actual nature. And this kripana, or miserly mood, is the disease that we suffer from. This is the disease that we have and has to be cleansed by the process of devotional service to bring out the good side of all of us. We, yeah, it's a lifetime's work, and Krishna reciprocates. Ye yatamam padyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So Krishna is saying, you have the choice to do what you want. You can follow me through the dictates of the external energy, and I will reward you according to yourself. You want to be the doer of activities. You think you're the doer. Okay. If that's the way you want to function, then okay, I'll make that arrangement. But when you get a bit frustrated with that, I can make other arrangements for you. And the arrangements Krishna is suggesting he says, Yad Yad Vibhuti Matsat Vam Srimadurifam Evava. This, all beautiful, mighty, and wonderful creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So if you're attracted to this material world in the Kali Yuga, oh boy, it's so wretched, really, isn't it? I mean, we could understand possibly in previous times being attracted by maybe some of the beauty of the world, but we get attracted by the flickering, a tiny flickering of light and darkness. And Krishna says that is not a good idea. Don't become just like a glowworm in the dark. We're chasing after a fleeting. So anyway, that's another whole discussion again. So I'm going to finish there. I should have mentioned earlier, but if you have any reflections, I didn't right at the beginning because we had a lot of technical difficulties again beginning this. So please forgive me for that. I'll try and remember next class to mention that if you have reflections, so if you do come on next Thursday, Krishna willing, I still be alive, and we'll be here hopefully by Krishna's mercy. Then if you have, it's really, really nice if I see a little reflection coming up on the chat. So I think if you go into chat, and maybe just something that we've read from the purport and the verse from Prabhupada, or something I spoke about that piques your interest, or you thought, oh, that's interesting, it sticks in your mind, then just share it, and then I can share it with the others, and it helps to broaden the conversation. So for today, I don't see anything there. So with that, and oh, somebody just put something there. Hare Krishna. Let's see. I'll see if I can press the right button, hopefully. Oh, okay. Social comments display. So somebody, Howard, says, thank you, Prabhu. So I thank you for being here. And remember, everyone is benefited. The speaker is for my self-purification that I'm speaking, because I want to get close to Krishna through these books. And so we can have that mood that is for my own self-purification, pardon me, whether we're coming to hear or we're coming to speak, because We're all very small, little jivas, and Krishna is available to us. So, Matchita, Madgata, Prana, Bodhayanta, Parasparam, Katayanta, Sha, Mamnicham, Tushanticha, Ramanticha. The thoughts of my pure devotees, and we're not holding anything up as pure, but pure means with a pure intention. Thoughts of my pure devotees. Prabhupada said all of his followers were pure devotees. Because why? They've come to this Krishna consciousness movement with the pure intention to go beyond the three modes of material nature, to do whatever it takes to transcend this up and down in the material world, and to do whatever it takes to scrub the coal. Coal, you scrub it, and yeah. So in that sense, we get great satisfaction and bliss enlightening one another and conversing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as the more we do that, the more we'll see that there's nothing else available of any value anyway. So let's keep doing that. So thanks for your thank you. And again, for next time, if you do have any little reflections, please share them. It's really valuable for the ongoing group. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari.